Now, Cincinnati Connection, connecting you to your community.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Cincinnati Connection. I'm your host, Sharice Gibson. According to the Centers for Disease Control, suicide is the third leading cause of death among youth ages 10 to 24 and over 2 times the rate of homicide. In 2016, nearly 45,000 Americans aged 10 or older died by suicide. Now, that is a wound that cuts deep for the family those who commit suicide leave behind. It's a wound felt by Diane Egbers when her son Grant took his own life. And now she and a team of wonderful people are working to make sure other young adults find healing before they make such a drastic decision. We have Diane in studio with us this morning, along with Keith Klein. They are both the founder and executive director of Grant Us Hope. Thank you guys for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
We've had you plenty of times here on Fox 19 now, but I thought it was just so important that we have you in, and not only because what you're doing in our schools and the community is amazing, but we are around a time of the holidays. And around the holidays, I posted this message on Twitter to remind people to check up on your families and to check up on your friends. Sometimes the holidays can be an emotional trigger for some people. So tell us a little bit more, for those who aren't familiar, about Grant Us Hope.
Sure. I'll begin, Cherie, by just saying I'm just grateful for the life of my son, Grant.
Yeah.
And just knowing that all of this is possible because of him. And so about Grant Us Hope. So we are in all of the state of Ohio and northern Kentucky focused on preventing suicide, also trauma, safety, and mental wellness in schools. And so we're bringing leadership and community advocacy around all of the schools that we serve.
So you used to be a principal in schools, correct?
High school principal and a superintendent, yeah.
So tell us this, have you had that experience of having to tell the schools, or students in the schools, that someone had taken their own life and had to deliver that message maybe to a student? Or...
Absolutely, and far too many times than I'd care to have. Unfortunately, in our society today and in our schools, our young people are struggling.
Yeah.
They're struggling with the world that they're surrounded by. They're struggling with emotional issues and mental health issues, and too many times young people don't have the knowledge or resource to be able to get the kind of support that they need so that we can get them back on track and they won't be in that struggling place. And so, Hope Squad, which is what the program that we're bringing to the state of Ohio from Utah, is doing just that. We're identifying young people in schools who are seen by their peers as young people who are very caring, are trustworthy, that they could go to and talk to if they had an issue. And we're training those students up so that they understand the signs of crisis and when one of their classmates is struggling, and not just identify, but then be able to ask some important questions of that young person and try to persuade them to get to the help that will make a difference.
So what's been a response so far from the students in the schools when you bring this to them, when you form does each school have its own Hope Squad?
Yes.
Yeah.
So each school has its own Hope Squad, and the interesting thing, Cherie, about it is the children, the students actually, have some freedom to make it their own. And so we believe that this is the generation that is going to stamp out the stigma of mental health. You can imagine with more than 40,000 kids will have in Hope Squad by the end of the 2019 school year.
Wow.
By the time those kids get into college, as we think about 1, 2, 3, 4 years from now, we are going to have a generation of students that are stamping out the stigma of mental health and really reaching out to help their peers.
And what I'd add to that real quickly is that not just able to do that within their school, but I really liken this to being a life skill, that these are skills that young people are learning. They're not afraid to have hard conversations. Sometimes adults are, but young people are not afraid to approach others and have those tough conversations. And with a little bit of knowledge, they're going to be able to help their peers get back on the right track and be in a safe place, not just at school, but once they get to college or go into the workplace, or or with their own family. You know, you mentioned talking about the holidays can be a stressful time.
Yeah.
By arming our young people with knowledge and empowering them to intervene and have some conversations, I think is going to be tremendous, not just for them, but for the folks that are surrounding them in their life. And I agree with Diane. I think it will change the dialogue around mental health and get past the stigma of being able to talk about that and suicide.
Well, you know, talking about peer-to-peer basically training in order to recognize the signals and the warning signs, how does Grant Us Hope kind of take us past that so we can delve a little bit more deeper into mental health? Or what do you guys have planned for the future so that we can expand this, possibly going even further than these students?
So we have received a grant from the Attorney General's office, who is
wonderful.
now the Governor-elect, Mike DeWine. In one-to-one conversations with him, I can see his commitment to mental health. And so one of the things that we're after is helping every student in Ohio. So that ranges from urban schools to suburban schools to rural schools. You know, we believe every student's life matters. And so the way that will affect that long term, as they have in Utah, is they have legislative support for the development of Hope Squads in their schools.
Okay.
And so our interest in growing is to really get state level support so that every school can have a Hope Squad, because every student's life is precious.
So now that you've been given that grant, how is it that you guys are expanding? I'm excited to hear about this.
Oh, sure, and we're working on expanding and doing it with high quality and making sure that we're delivering high quality services to all of the schools that we're engaged with. We're going to be putting school liaisons in place that will be working with a group of 12 to 14 schools, not just on Hope Squad and getting that in place, but what do we do when a young person's been hospitalized for a mental health concern or has made a suicide attempt? How do we bring them back into school so that they can be successful in that environment after they've gone through some treatment? And so, you know, there's so many moving parts to this that having staff available and being able to assist and support schools when they have the death of a student or students that are being hospitalized around mental health is going to be so critically important. And that's part of what we're going to be able to do with the money from the state.
Oh, that's phenomenal. How many schools are you in right now?
Well,
So
we
I'll let
thank you.
like you answer.
Well, right. We started, launched about 8 schools this past fall. We'll be to 30 when January rolls around, which is right around the corner.
Yeah.
And by the start of next school year, we expect to be in 60+ schools around the state of Ohio.
Oh, wow. And that's with the assistance of the grant?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Wow, that is phenomenal. I mean, you know, and I have to ask you this. Diane, tell me this, for families who have experienced that pain that you felt.
Sure.
Right now, like we said, these are the holidays. These are sometimes a reminder that we can't spend the holidays with someone we love because mental health maybe pushed them to take their lives. So what is it that you can say to them to give them that assistance, to get them through this, to help them and coach them through this?
Yeah, I would say, Cherie, the key thing is just to find reasons to have hope. You know, when kids are struggling and they lose hope, that's when we know that they're in peril. You know, and so that affects families. You know, when you lose a child, the biggest challenge is to again find hope. And for me, that's with the work of Grant Us Hope. You know, I have an amazing business, Leadership Acceleration. I'm the CEO of that business and then founder of Grant Us Hope.
Yeah.
But on a daily basis, it's that hopefulness that other families won't suffer in the way that we have. And if they are suffering, you know, it's important to reach out and get the help you need to get back on a path to hope and to have hope for the future, especially for some families during the holidays.
All right, Diane Egbers and Keith Klein, thank you for the wonderful work that you're doing here.
Thank
All right,
you.
more info on fox19now.com. We'll be right back.